In the world of global finance, making a profit is really only half the battle. The real puzzle? It's getting that money back home. So today, we're going to tackle the complex world of international tax treaties to see exactly how investors try to avoid getting taxed twice on the very same income. Okay, so picture this. You're the one managing a global investment fund, and most of your investors are in the US. You find this incredible investment opportunity in a Japanese tech company, and boom, it's a huge success. The profits are rolling in. But now comes the really hard part. How in the world do you get those profits from Japan all the way back to your investors in the US without both countries taking a huge slice of the pie? To make this all feel a bit more real, let's follow a hypothetical fund. We'll call it Global Vest Fund. Now, like a lot of these big international funds, it's technically based in the Cayman Islands, which is just a common way to pool money from investors all over the globe. And yep, its current challenge is the exact one we're digging into. So before Global Vest can even think about some clever solution, it runs smack into the first major hurdle, Japan's default tax rules.
See, Japan's system is pretty straightforward. If your head office is in Japan, you're a domestic corporation. If it's not, you're a foreign one. Simple as that. Since Global Vest is based in the Caymans, Japan looks at it and says, okay, you're a foreign corporation. And that means any money it earns there is going to be subject to a whole different set of rules.
And here's where it starts to hurt. Japan automatically withholds, basically it just takes, about 20% on payments like dividends that go out to foreign corporations. And that's before the money even leaves the country. We're talking a 1/5 cut of the profits just gone. That's the kind of number that could totally make or break whether the investment was a success. A 20% tax hit is, well, it's tough to swallow. But in the world of international tax, there are some pretty powerful tools designed for exactly this kind of situation. Global Vest has a potential lifeline here that could honestly change everything. And that lifeline is called a double tax agreement, or a DTA. These are basically treaties signed between two countries to solve two main problems. First, to make sure you don't pay full tax in two different places on the same income, and second, to stop people from using international borders to illegally dodge their taxes altogether. For Global Vest, the US-Japan DTA is the holy grail. It has rules in it that could potentially slash that painful 20% tax all the way down to 5% or maybe even 0. But, and you knew there was going to be a but, right? It is not automatic. There's a catch, a really big one, and it has everything to do with the fact that Global Vest is in the Cayman Islands. And now we're at the real heart of the puzzle. This is where the rules get tricky and where a single crucial question is going to determine everything. So here's the core problem. The treaty is between the US and Japan. Global Vest is in the Cayman Islands. So how can a Cayman entity possibly get benefits from a US-Japan treaty? Well, the answer lies in something called the transparency test. The key concept here is being fiscally transparent. The easiest way to think about this is a simple partnership. The partnership itself doesn't pay income tax, right? Instead, the profits just flow through directly to the individual partners, and then they pay tax on their share. The partnership is basically see-through for tax purposes. It's transparent.
And this gives us two ways to view an entity like Global Vest. Is it an opaque box, where the fund itself is the taxpayer and it stops the flow of income? Or is it a clear pipe, just a simple conduit where income flows straight through to the investors? If you want those treaty benefits, Global Vest absolutely needs to be seen as a clear pipe.
And this whole clear pipe idea? It's not just a nice way to think about it. It's written right into the treaty itself. Article 4 basically says that if an entity is considered fiscally transparent by the investor's home country, so the US in our example, then it's as if the US investors got the income directly. The Cayman fund in the middle is effectively ignored. It becomes invisible. Okay, so we've got the mechanism, the clear pipe. But does Global Vest actually qualify? We're about to get to the final reveal where all of these rules are going to come together to give us our answer. So here's the crucial point, and it comes from a really powerful anti-abuse rule called the Limitation on Benefits Rule. This rule basically says, look, we don't care where the fund is located. We only care about who is standing at the end of the pipe. Are the ultimate owners, the investors, actual residents of the US who would normally be covered by this treaty? All right, let's look at scenario 1. Global Vest investors are qualified U.S. residents who meet all the conditions. Now, because U.S. tax law sees the Cayman fund as that clear pipe, the U.S.-Japan treaty treats it the same way. The Japanese income flows right through, and the U.S. investors get the full benefit. That 20% tax drops to 0. A perfect outcome.
But what about scenario 2? What if the investors are from a country that doesn't have this kind of tax treaty with Japan, say Brazil? Well, in that case, even though the fund is a clear pipe, the people at the end of it aren't eligible. The treaty benefits just vanish, and the Japanese tax snaps right back to the full 20%.
So, you might be wondering, what is the point of all this complexity? I mean, why not just make it simple? Well, these super intricate rules are all part of a massive global balancing act with some really important goals. Think of it like this. On one side, countries want to encourage foreign investment, so they use these treaties to lower taxes. On the other side, though, they have to prevent abuse. They have to stop something called treaty shopping. That's where an investor from a non-treaty country sets up a shell company just to try and get benefits they're not entitled to. These rules make sure the tax breaks go only to the people they were meant for, the actual residents of the countries in the treaty. And that really leaves us with a final, massive question. This whole system is built on concepts like residency and physical location, but as we move deeper into an era of digital assets, of crypto, of truly borderless finance, you have to ask, can a tax system that was designed for a physical world really keep up?